Hello and welcome back for another visit. I am Anna Delman, and today we are going to move ahead with discussing ongoing change on a daily basis and what that looks like. I'm going to pick up today where I left off yesterday, and that is in reference to Proverbs 24 verses 3 to 4, where I shared that with you and mentioned that it's through skillful and godly wisdom that all of life is constructed. From the nooks and crannies of our lives, how deeply we let it settle in, it can thereby influence those around us, and that is so true. So wisdom is that one thing that allows us to obviously live wisely, and that's an obvious. But what does that look like, and how do we get there? It doesn't happen in a vacuum. You've got to plan for it. You've got to take the time and study. You've got to study that source of wisdom. For me, it is the scriptures. You've got to examine the relevance and the pertinence of what you are reading to be able to apply it to life. Then you've got to figure it out to be the foundation. What do you want that foundation to look like? It's not going to again happen in a vacuum. You've got to study it, you've got to think about it, you've got to meditate on it and allow it to reason through those things in your mind that are not clear. Construction and the development of a foundation takes time. It begins with a starting point and a cornerstone. What is that one core value, core principle in your life that undergirds everything about you? That's what you've got to figure out. And for me, it's the Word of God, because of who God is. Is the wisdom you're looking at able to be the core of your life? That one thing that brings you back to a value system and a moral core that undergirds all of your functioning. When you've found the source of the wisdom you want to build on, that only then is when the construction can begin. You need to put off your old behaviors, apply the new wise ones, and change. You've got to root everything out. It doesn't again happen in a vacuum. It means you've got to actively work at changing your mindset. That can be hard sometimes. Make sure your source of wisdom instills empathy, compassion, and caring, and develops in you a backbone of shrewdness. Now, I've never liked that word shrewd most of my life. I can recall my mom using it when I was a child, and in the context she used it in, it was suggesting somebody was being shrewd in the negative. I had to forget that when I actually needed to use that word in the positive context, that we need to be shrewd in how we navigate wisdom in our lives, especially once we have that principle and we are confronted with people who are not upright and not honest. How do we move around them? Sure, I quoted Psalm 1, 2, and 3 to you yesterday and the day before, I believe, where you just don't sit down, you don't get caught up with them, and you move on. That can be hard. Sometimes you just cannot do it. Then, how do you apply shrewdness in those moments to, when you cannot walk away, to preserve your mindset, to preserve your heart and not get caught up in that? That's the skill, and that's the shrewdness when that comes into play. And we need to consider that deeply, especially when you're working on change. You don't want to be caught up in flare-ups with others. You need to, like water on a duck's back, just let it flow off and get away from you, and you move on. Being shrewd is not a negative word. This is especially true in counseling someone. We need to be cautious about words that people use and how they use them, and question the context always. In discussing being shrewd, that is a tongue twister for me for some reason. In the context of foundational wisdom building, shrewdness in your character encourages a sagacious mindset. That means mental discernment, good judgment, discretion, intelligent thought, and it goes back to the Psalm 1 of instruction that I've just mentioned to you. You don't get caught up in trash overflowing from the foundation that other people are building on, which is trash. Again, we need, it's not as easy as it may sound at times. I've just given an example where sometimes you cannot escape, but how do you preserve your heart, your mind, your soul from not being affected by other people's plain nastiness in conversation. You be polite, you do not few words, rather don't say anything in response, and a few gestures, polite ones, and you wait for the right time and you excuse yourself or you distract the conversation to something else. That's shrewdness. I'd rather be cautious and slow to act and slither away to grow more and more foundation, and not flaring up or lashing out when other people are being bratty. Allows for me to have more confidence to apply the wisdom which my foundation is being constructed on. And I think that is such a gift we give ourselves when we are able to do that. So practicing wisdom in life grows the confidence to do it over and over and over again. Change from the inside overflows to change on the outside. It affects our behaviors. Speaking words of wisdom to yourself. We have to instruct ourselves moment by moment every day. That's why I'm doing this challenge. That's why I'm moving forward with it. As I've mentioned, for the past few years, I had limited mobility. I couldn't get out there and do things that I would normally have wanted to do. Physically, I wasn't able to. It didn't mean that spiritually and emotionally I was in a less functioning position. I wasn't. I was in one of the most sweetest places I've ever been, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually in my life. It was such a sweet time that I will never forget it. That's a conversation for another time. So step aside from those whose words are stealthily contrary to anything wise, caring, and compassionate or educated. Don't get caught up in their way or their conversation. Do not sit with them. Move on. Grow. Grow in grace. And that is my encouragement for today. I trust you will be back another day to visit for another time. Take care and God bless. Bye for now.